Hello, and welcome to the Menopause Mindset Self Love podcast, where we are shifting the way women do menopause. I am your host, Lisa R. Triggs, the Menopause Queen. And today I'm so excited to have two lovely guests. We are on location in Las Vegas. So we are on the fly now. We're going to have a conversation with the lovely Ariel and the lovely Janet about what they do. So let's start with Ariel. Hi. Thank you so much for joining me and saying, okay, let's just have a chat today. Like, let's have some girl talk. I love having girl talk, and I love your outfit, by the way. It's so good. So good. So my name is Ariel Balfour. I am the reclamation warrior and Viking queen. I am your local emotional wellness mentor and your badass sidekick. I am the type of mentor that is going to take you through all of your mental health journey, and I will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, but I will be there every step of the way to make sure that you make it through in a safe and peaceful manner. So I'm here to undo all of your inner itty bitty shitty committee stories that you tell yourself. You know, we all have them driving the bus in the back of our brain, and my job is to help get to the root of why they're there so that you can work in tandem with them rather than against them. So rather than having that voice tell you you're not good enough, we get to learn why it thinks you're not good enough. And then we get to work, link arms and arm together so that we can actually move past that. And so that we can use that as like a part of our superpower, essentially. I'm just going to let Janet introduce herself and then we'll come back to your story, how you got into it. So I've interviewed Janet before this, the Janet Hamilton from the Anomaly Factor, which is an intuitive healer. And I combine, yes, and other things. So
I'm Janet Hamilton from the Anomaly Factor, and I'm a compassionate inquiry and integrative holistic practitioner, intuitive healer, author, podcaster, and speaker. And I do something similar to what Ariel does. I really connect you to your authenticity, back to who you were supposed to be before the world made you to who you are today. So it's aligning your heart, mind, body, and soul to be whole.
see, we are all on missions to help. Do we work with just women or anybody?
Anyone?
I work with anyone, but I specifically love to work with men and women who suffer from mental health diagnosis that feel stuck in that diagnosis. So part of my story at the label, or you're stuck on the label. Yeah. Part of my story was that I got diagnosed at the grand age of 7 with bipolar, ADHD, and body dysmorphia disorder. And I was found on more medication than I could shake a fist at in a young, very vulnerable state of my life. And I was pigeonholed as a result of it. I was outcasted, I was bullied. I wasn't allowed to have emotional moments because it meant that my mental health was out of control. I grew up basically thinking that emotions were bad. That if I felt anything that wasn't just complete neutrality, that I was somehow broken. And so when I came into this work, I was like, I want to help other people discover that they're not broken. That really my diagnosis, I believe, was a fracturing of my soul because of past experiences in this lifetime, past lifetimes, epigenetics, and all of these pieces had left this soul, and it left me feeling lost and not whole. And as I've learned to heal these parts of myself, I've come back to that, and I wanna do that for everybody. So that's why I work with men and women, because mental health does not discriminate.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I love what you said about the labels. We get stuck on that. Like I'm even guilty of that myself, saying, "Oh, I was diagnosed with depression and PTSD," kind of thing. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to allow myself to think of myself in that way. Yes, I went through moments of that. I've had moments of that, like many of us do, right? But don't want to label myself like that. And you have a really interesting story how you got and that was young actually. So I and I just want to add that to not as a child not be able to express your emotions properly. Like kids are supposed to cry and stuff like that, right? Like that's how we're learning to develop and oh my gosh. So tell us a little bit about the story, what brought you into I mean, I know that's part of it,
Yeah.
but more recently that got you into specifically.
Yeah. Well, I'll just quickly touch back on that. The reason I got diagnosed so early was it ran in my family.
all the women on my dad's side had bipolar or manic depression, as it was known in the 80s, and they had all committed suicide. And it has been tragic, and we have lost many, many women on that side of the family as a result. And as a result of that, they were afraid when they started to see the same signs in me. And so because it ran in the family, they just slapped a diagnosis on me. Now, fast forward throughout my life, I got retested when I went off medication. Because I had done it so successfully the way that I had done it. And this is the exact same protocol I walk all of my clients through. But when I was successfully off the medication, they were convinced I had been misdiagnosed because it cannot, and I repeat in quotes, bipolars cannot successfully be off medication. I proved them wrong. They did a test on my brain, and my brain still looks and acts like a bipolar response on the test that they put me through. And they were like, "We don't know what you've done differently, but it's whatever it is, it's working, but it's not gonna hold forever." Well, we are here 22 years near, and it's still holding. And I've been through postpartum depression twice with my babies, and I walked myself through the exact same protocol I did the first time, and I was able to get myself out of those moments because I was like, "Oh, I see what's happening." Now, I'm gonna preface that, like, don't ever just think you can do it alone. Get the help you need, and I did, right? I went to the doctors that I trusted that were knew my mission, and I was like, if you think I need medication, I'm open to it, but short term. And so we did. I didn't ever go on medication at that point, but it was one of those things where I got guided there. But what led me to this work was I died 3 times. Yeah, I did not see the light, but I did have an out of body experience 2 out of the 3 times. The 3rd time was a very different experience where I could hear everything happening, but I didn't see anything, didn't experiencing anything outside of that. And most of what I heard was when I was in the coma. So that was a whole thing. Um but yeah, I died 3 times, and I died once on my 21st birthday. That was my 2nd time. My lung collapsed, my heart started to give out. The doctors very much prepared my mom for the worst case scenario. And it was at that moment that I kind of had this awakening where I was like, even though at this point I had been a year or so off of the medication, I was like, something inside of me said, "You're meant for more. And what you're doing is not enough. You have to change." And it was in that moment that I was like, I was doing everything that everybody else told me I should do to get better. But it was when I stopped and I went silent and I went within, then I started listening to the guide that was telling me what I needed. Trust me when I say I've had a lot of people shake their heads at me, say that's crazy, it's not gonna work. What are you thinking? You're gonna end up in hospital. I've heard it all. And every single time I have to just tap into myself and be like, I know what I need. And so in doing that, I actually have created an entire blueprint that works with almost everybody's needs because it is flexible in the way that it moves. And we get to the root of the problem. And once you figure out what the root of the issue is, everything else is easy, right? Because a lot of what I experience now as an adult was put on me as a child. And here, I'm going to blow your mind for just a minute. Everybody talks about it's what happened to you, right? Because, like, it's not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you. I disagree. It's not just what happened to you, it's what didn't happen for you in that moment. So, yes, I've had things like sexual assaults as a young child. I've had things like bullying and all that other stuff. And yes, these things happened to me and they shaped me, but it was more so what was lacking in those moments, such as being seen, heard, safety, that really shaped me.
Well, I'm trying not to get emotional here because that part sounds a lot like me, suffered trauma, and all like and the inner journey that you're talking about is exactly what I talk about all the time that I went through. It's the inner journey, the inner work, finding yourself and listening to that inner voice, um, knowing in your heart, what works for you, what doesn't for you, what is for you and not for you.
Yeah.
Who you can sense I shouldn't listen to that person, or you know what, I think I'm just gonna get a second opinion, or you know what, yeah, okay, thank you for that, but I know and hear what I need to do.
Yeah, since when did we stop turning away from where the knowledge actually is based? And that is internal.
Intuitive, yeah.
It is always intuitive. And I think, like, even when it comes to menopause, let's come back to your entire, like, mission here and the menopause queen. Like, how many women have been told, like, oh, it's just in your head, these symptoms aren't real, you're not eating properly, you're not doing this, that, or the other. Intuitively, we know when our bodies start to change. We know when things are right. Like, I knew before postpartum depression hit that chemically something internally was off kilter.
So
And so if we just came back to ourselves and started to, like, I think we've lost that as a society, and now we base it all on what the professional says.
yes.
I might go, I'm a doctor and say, you
Yeah.
tell me.
And I go to the doctor and I say, I want to test for this, this, and this because this is going on. You know,
Yeah.
it, and I want to check this level and that level because I know my own body. At 57 years old, so I know when an infection's UTI is coming on. Oh, it's not showing. No, I know my body. It's coming on. I made it in too many of us, right?
Yeah.
We're not listening to ourselves. We're listening to outside world, other people, doctors,
Social media, commercial.
yeah. Yeah. And we have to listen to ourselves more. Let's jump to Janet now for a second because experience. Actually, I think it's pretty safe to say now that I didn't know this about you. I did about Janet. All three of us have experienced trauma as a child. Um, and I can't exactly remember what age I was. I think it was like 7 or 8. I don't remember how many times. I know it was the once for sure because whether my subconscious is blocked, anything.
100% safety.
Yeah, exactly. So and
My story is very similar and yet very different from Ariel's. So 3 years ago, I basically burnt out completely. I had also fallen and was immobile for 2 months. And I never understood emotions or feelings, but I am I'm a highly sensitive empath and I feel everything. My body, not my mind, my body tells me I'm super hyper vigilant for absolutely everything. I detect inauthenticity like no tomorrow. And because of that, I do not feel safe. And I am super, super authentic and yet had absolutely every self limiting belief and defense mechanism. And now I understand why. Because, like these ladies were saying, doctors today are treating the symptoms and handing out prescriptions, which are actually causing us further harm. Yeah, when I burnt out, and I started personal development 20 years ago because I'm so type A, I wanted my stuff figured out before I turned 40. Well, I turned 60 in February and I feel like a 6-month-old all over again because I'm just starting to understand the feelings, the emotions, the sensations, and connect them all because I have no words because most of my trauma happened in the first year of life. And my body remembers what my mind cannot.
You don't have to actually go back to the actual moment that the thing happened because the body keeps score. You can actually design. It doesn't really matter what the story is as long as you're healing the emotions attached to that story in your body.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's like I felt stuck my entire life and feeling like I had one foot on the brake and one foot on the gas. And I was wanting to move forward, but I felt this strong, energetic pull backwards. And literally, it's like connecting the dots in hindsight before you realize why it all is resolved. And everything is cause and effect. There's a reason that everything happens in our lives, how we feel, and we can change those trajectories. We can change the neural pathways. We can change our system. I've lived with chronic post traumatic stress disorder my entire life. And
And you still remained married to the same man. You still raised 2 children,
yeah,
that are adults now and functioning citizens, and everybody's.
I could see before, but now I have more understanding of myself and the clarity.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like you said, you want to put the lines back.
It's amazing. That just gives testament to how strong and what women really can accomplish. Even when you've got shit going on that's bad, we still be like, okay, I'm still the wife, the mother. You know what I mean? Like you're still getting on with your life.
And my method is basically deal, heal, and deal, feel, and heal to achieve, dream, and believe, or believe and dream. So we're getting it all mixed up. And because everything has cause and effect, like I said before, there's epigenetics, there's ancestral trauma. You have to deal with it. And most people are not maturing, they're just growing old. And we are the one person in our lives, in our phase, that are changing the trajectory.
Again, because like guys, the healing journey is a journey and not a destination. It is right when I was like, yeah, I'm here. The world's like, yeah, and here's the next step. Yeah. You know, I all of a sudden stopped drinking and it was July 7th. So 0707. At 7 a.m. I made a decision and I was like, I'm just gonna do this. And as a low key, guys, I'm gonna be honest here, alcoholic, that had never happened for me. And it ran in my family, and I was like, you know, it was never a bad thing per se. Like I just have drinks regularly, but I was like, I'm never gonna be able to quit. And here I was, and I quit. And like now, it's like I don't even like tell people I quit because it doesn't feel like I quit. It just felt like a shift.
Exactly. I felt that physical shift in my brain, literally from my right hemisphere to the left.
Wow.
I felt the opening in my vagus nerve on the right side. And then it took about 6 months for my body to settle down into what is calm and normal. I reduced the cortisol, I reduced the inflammation, the C reactive protein. I probably saved my life, or at least added some years to it.
For sure. We are now back home, all three of us actually, in different parts of Canada. So we are going to continue the conversation that we started in Las Vegas with the lovely Ariel Balfour and Janet Hamilton. I think that Janet was getting into herself a little bit more again before we got cut off. So I want to give Janet the opportunity to be able to quickly remind us about what she does and her service that she provides and books that you have. Do we want to make sure that we promote? Because you have your own book or anthology, Ariel?
I have anthologies. My own personal book is Born for the Fire, and it's launching October 2026.
All right, Janet. First of all, I want you to, since now we're back home and we have copies of our books.
The two that I've written on my own are Understanding Feelings and Emotions and The Caregiver Survival Guide.
I have this book. I started reading it and I absolutely loved it. There's my Exploring Basic Emotions. That's how far I've gotten so far. But tell us more about, what you do and what prompted you to write that book in particular.
I totally burnt out in the summer of 2022. And I was immobile for 2 months. I lost 15 people who passed. I put boundaries up for the first time in my life and dove into not one course, but a dozen courses going, I'm going to have a lot of time on my hands now that everybody's gone. And I didn't realize until I got halfway through the courses that I really didn't understand myself. I didn't understand energy. I didn't understand or grow up with boundaries or the awareness of emotions. I just got overwhelmed with them. I wasn't able to discern the feelings, the emotions, the sensations, how they all tie together. I feel all mine, but I feel everybody else's too. So I just got overwhelmed by them. So I wrote it as a result of my own healing and trying to understand. And then finding out through the healing that I was a child of emotional neglect and parentification. Had absolutely no clue, never felt like a victim. I had a great life, but both my parents grew up without fathers from the age of 3. So they didn't have the emotional attunement to give me. It's not that they didn't love me or care for me. I was an accident. I ended up being a compassionate inquiry and an integrative holistic practitioner as a result of it. And I didn't realize that I had spent my entire life in chronic post-traumatic stress disorder, a dysregulated system. That was my normal. So through my own healing process, I connected to myself. And now that's all I want to do is help other people connect, not only to themselves, but to like-minded individuals, each other. It's all about collaboration.
We talk about boundaries. Explain to me what that means to you.
I grew up feeling like a feral child. So I grew up soul and self-led. I was the emotional peacekeeper, regulator for everyone, and I wasn't even regulated myself. I just pushed and literally after the fact found out I was running from myself my entire life. The energy in my system just kept me going. I was a workaholic, perfectionist, OCD, and I didn't realize that it wasn't safe for me to just be. Now I understand that that's why I've been running my entire life. And it's hard for me to just rest now and do nothing because I don't feel productive, even though I'm more productive now that I've learned to just be and put the boundaries up. I felt used, abused, and objectified my whole life and had no reason why. Now I get it. But I didn't do it to people please. My whole system was aware and hyper vigilant for safety. And I know I'll never feel safe in the world because most people aren't authentic.
Ariel, chime in. Does that speak to you that about feeling? I mean, well, you're the most authentic person I think I know. You and you don't apologize for it. You, on the outside, anyway, I'm going to say that word on the outside, have the persona, right, of, a confident, strong woman. Is that really who Ariel is? I believe so. It is, but how did you get there? I guess how did you get to the Ariel you are?
I grew up always feeling very different. I grew up being told I was too much, too loud, too noisy, too outspoken, too unladylike, I was just too. That's just what I was. Whatever you could add on the other side of two, that was me. And I was always that. It was funny because I grew up always questioning why the world said to be authentic and to be myself and yet couldn't accept me for who I was. Could continuously, yeah, continuously put me in a box, continuously tried to make the world doesn't want authenticity. It does not. Society, government, constraints, they want people who are sheep, who are ducks that follow along, waddling down the road, all in a boat. I always say I'm a purple duck in a in a sea full of yellow, right? I am different. From day one, I knew I was different. And I always questioned the things that people would say to me and like, why am I too loud? Why is this too loud? Why am I too much? Why can't I say that? And like some people now, because the newest trend is everybody has to have a diagnosis. So everybody's like, well, you must be autistic because autistic people for the general whole speak their minds. And I'm like, well, if that's the case, then sure, label me that way if you must. But like, no, I'm not. I just honestly don't believe in needing a filter because the filter that we are speaking through was given to us by people in control and conditioned into us out of fear. Fear of being different, fear of being outspoken. I mean, like Salem witch trials are a great example of that. A healer being burned at the stake because nobody could understand why that one person was so different. And the world doesn't want authenticity. And so, yeah, I'm a strong and confident person. Is that who I am at my core? 100%. Do I find it difficult and lonely? Even more so. Yes. I walk a very singular road. I don't have a lot of friends. And by friends, like I have a lot of acquaintances. I have a lot of people but like true people who understand, walk beside me and know me fully and accept me in all aspects, very few. And I don't even include my family. Like my family doesn't even understand me. In fact, I am the black sheep. And you know what? I always say, I don't even like that term. I say I'm the black sheep because that's the terminology people understand. I say I'm the chosen one. I am the one that was sent here to break generational trauma. I was the one who was sent here to shake it up, to be the wildly feral individual that says, no, I'm not going to subscribe to your storyline. That's not who I am. And that's how I live my life. And so I grew up at a time where MMA female fighters were, don't talk about that, right? They must be a lesbian. They must be this. Like the amount of things that people always said to me because of what I did was atrocious. But at the end of the day, it was like I knew that I was born to be a fighter. And that's why I did it. And the more people told me I shouldn't do it, I couldn't do it, was the more it pushed me to do it because I was like, I don't believe in constraint. And this is why my entire brand is called Feral and Free, because that is who I am. And so, like Jenna, when you said I was grew up as a feral child, I'm like, what was wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. Be feral, be free. You know, there's a difference between being feral and free and being taken advantage of 100%, right? And I think that's where the difference is. And I think that to come to this point in my life, I've always kind of had this sense that being silenced was wrong. I am a very outspoken individual, but I have the superpower of knowing when to be silent. And I wait. It's the same thing as in the ring. Just because I know how to fight doesn't mean I'm going to come out swinging just to get the knockout in the first 30 seconds. I'm going to take my time and I'm going to make it good.
I think we all, and unfortunately, it's too much. We all have had, all the three of us, that childhood trauma. And it's created us, we all three are independent, outspoken individuals. And like you, I married, well, he's not anymore, but I married a corporate man. So I had to learn how to be a good corporate wife when we went to functions and so forth. And I did it, but I lost myself in it a bit, worrying more about what other people would think. Because he went through a phase that was like that. He was always worried about what other people were going to think, right? And whereas that's one thing up until a few years ago, actually, and even now, I didn't care about what other people thought, right? That's one thing. I was never a follower. We are all doing things that set us apart. Ariel, I want you to quickly show us you're in an anthology, because you are a writer, part of an anthology. Oh, you got 3.
So these are the 3 that are printed. I'm in 15 so far. So I have lots to share. I'll show you this, but I have lots to share, which is what led me to writing my own book, Born for the Fire. And Born for the Fire is not just a memoir of my life. It is literally a memoir self-help book. So it is everything that I teach my clients, my people, how to walk through these moments in life and what it took to get there. And so, like, you asked me earlier, like, how did I get here? This is how I got here. And that's why that book's going to be, it's going to be revolutionary. I don't see people's books done this way. I kind of, have approached it from a whole different way of thinking. And I'm hoping that it really makes a big change. But my first anthology that I was a part of was the She Defies book. So this is an anthology that is like powerful stories about overcoming. In this book in particular, I can't even remember which story I wrote here. I've written so many anthologies. Living Takes Courage. So this is about the first time that I died. So this is about those deaths. This one is Mindful Her. So this one is women sharing their mental health journey. So this is about when I got Bell's palsy and what that did for my mental health at that point in time, because I ended up with Bell's palsy 7 days after having my first child. And so that was a really, really big moment in my life. And you don't realize how much your face plays a role in who you are until you look in the mirror and you don't recognize the person who is looking back at you. I'm just trying to find my story here. Yeah, so Becoming the Storm. So in this book, the Rise of the Phoenix is the Becoming an Unstoppable Woman series. So this is the Rise of the Phoenix. There's, I think, 30 authors in this book.
I think, Ariel, you've been doing what you do the longest out of the 3 of us. Janet and I are still evolving. I know you're still finishing courses. I actually, for you guys, I just signed up for 2 courses the other day to be able to put, that I'm a menopause coach and a neuroscience coach, after my name. But I know, Ariel, you've been doing what you've been doing for 10
15
years?
plus. Yeah. Yeah. So, and it's been an evolution. Like, it's not, I haven't been this for 15 years. It's been an evolution of coaching. I don't even resonate with the title coach anymore because that's who I used to be. I used to be a coach. Then I moved into an alchemist. Then I moved into mentorship. And like, that's really where I sit, is like, I'm not just here to teach you A, B, and C. I'm here to mentor you to unlock parts of you that you didn't know existed, right? And I do it in a way that is not seen in the industry. And I think that, like, in our industry of healers, there's so much fraudulent people out there. The amount of coaches I see charging 6 figure, 5 figure courses, and they don't even have a regulated nervous system is atrocious to me. Because I have hired coaches who cannot handle conflict, who cannot handle being called on or questioned in their integrity. And it's like, I encourage that with my people. If there's something that I'm not doing, you need to tell me because I need to be better. That comes from a regulated nervous system. And so that comes from years of doing what I do.
Why should you change your truth? We're not responsible for other people's feelings or how they react. And I think because we're all so authentic, we do that. We piss people off because we trigger them. But that's not our problem.
I have a lot of different ways of thinking about things though. Like, so for instance, I don't like the words trigger warning. I don't like the words trauma dumping. I find these are flashy words that people know nothing about and they just throw them around. Like, people are like, oh my God, I was so triggered the other day. No, you're not. You're creating an issue where you don't need to create one, right? So it's like, this is where I'm a disruptor. That's the best way to diagnose who I am. I'm a disruptor. That's what I'm here to do. Is I'm here to disrupt your timeline and storyline and story arcs because I'm a seer beyond what is visible in this realm in this time. I see beyond the veil and I see what's really happening behind it. And I think that that's what makes me vastly different from everybody else.
I like that because I see myself a little bit in the same way as a disruptor, right? I'm doing it a little bit different, coming from a different perspective and all that kind of stuff. But you and Janet are both similar in that way about with the intuitiveness. Well, you've also both died. So do you think that that does something different to you, having experienced that? Janet, what did that look like to you? Did going through that, do you think that changed you? Changed your perspective, changed, how you thought about some things?
Well, I didn't know what I didn't know till I knew it. That was my normal. I didn't know any different. And most of mine was pre-verbal. So there's no way I could have known it, but my body remembered. And I've been releasing the energy from my body for a while now. And I do strongly believe that it gives you gifts. I think the earlier you've endured trauma, the longer you've endured trauma, the fact that you've maybe passed almost and transitioned on, it gives you sensitivities like no tomorrow. All of my senses are heightened. And I'm like Ariel, but we have different methods. I see, but I use compassionate inquiry and she does something rather unique. At some point, we're going to experiment on each other.
Let's call it C, do you think that's a result of your 3 passings?
Well, and here's the thing.
Have you kind of always had that gift before, those happened?
It's a 3-pronged answer, basically. First thing is like definition of what passing looks like. I've heard a lot of stories from people where they're like, yeah, I've died 3 times too. And no, what they had was a close encounter, not actual death. When I speak of dying, I speak of cardiac arrest, the heart completely stopping, there being no conscious awareness, no conscious physicality happening, right? Your heart has stopped beating. You're gone, done, end of story, here we are, right? That's when I refer to dying. I don't refer to, if we're going to count all my close encounters, I've died like 18 times. For me, the definition of what I'm speaking of when I speak of dying is my heart being completely stopped for upwards of 45 seconds and longer, right? That's what the actual medical definition means. The close encounters, I've had a lot of those where it's been like a blip where like all of a sudden you're out, you're back in. Those I don't count as deaths. I count those as my close calls. My hey, just checking in. Oh no, I'm not ready. Okay, good. Bye. Right? I think the second prong to that is, did it change me? It can't not change you. But it also, on the third part of that, it is who I am. It's always been who I am. I've always had these gifts. I think how it changed me was it gave me the strength to say, your opinions of me don't matter. Life is short. And do I care that Susie in grade 9 stole my boyfriend and like everybody hates me because she told everybody that I cheated on him with so and so? No. It did not matter then. It does not matter now. I don't care what people think of me. And I think dying actually gave me that freedom to be like, oh, at the end of the day, when you kaputs and you're done, their opinions don't matter. So, like, I always tell my clients when people come to you and they're like, oh, I think you're doing too much, or oh, I think you're too outspoken, or you're too whatever. I always go, is that person living your life? And are they even living a life that you want? Because I don't ask for advice, opinions, or feedback from people who are not living my ultimate dream. Point blank, period. And that includes my mentors. They're not living the life that I want. Yeah, I want to pick their brain for things, but they're not living the life that I want. So no, their opinions on what I do not matter. And that's how it changed me.
What is the saying? You're the sum of the 5 people that you surround
Always.
yourself with? Yeah.
And that includes people you're physically around. So like right now I live in a house with 3 boys and I am the sum of these 3 boys because they are constantly within my energy.
Well, my goodness. You know what? I don't know if I've heard that. Oh, I've heard more before about like you can take on characteristics kind of thing, or if you're or if you have a bestie, you're around them all the time. Sometimes you're when had one, so your cycles could even, or your siblings, your sisters, your cycles could even kind of sync, right?
Your cycles will sync to the most dominant female and they will sync to the most dominant female that is within sync to the moon. Yeah, because normally the most dominant female is synced to the moon cycles because that's naturally how they sync. But then every other female in close proximity will eventually start to sync with that woman.
Yeah, I think the original calendar had 13 months to go with the moon.
Yeah, and the moon always fell on the same day every single month. But man came along and said, no, my penis is bigger than yours, so my month has to have 31 days in it. And it was a pissing contest. And of course, man has to control everything. So man created a calendar. Time is irrelevant. You look at time, look at turtles, right? Turtles have 28 hexagons on their back, right? Each 13 months, 28 days, everything would be in sync. Everything in this world is a cycle. And like when you can start to see beyond the veil again, time doesn't matter, opinion doesn't matter, frequency is everything.
I didn't know about the 13-month thing. So what? The calendar used to have 13 months?
Yeah. So the calendar originally was based on the cycle of the moon. The moon rises at full 13 times a year. And that's if you're going by a year, not the calendar year. Because somebody will be like, oh, well, last year it only rose like 10 times. No, we're talking the original year was based on 13 moon cycles. And that would go in time with the seasons and everything else. Like if we actually ran by that calendar, our world would be so vastly different.
To me, that's why the present moment's so important, because you're not stuck in the past. The future is not promised. So if you're not making conscious choices now for the best life that you want to live, because Ariel's right, nobody else cares what you're doing. They're just going to sit around and talk about you anyway. So you just stay focused and focus on what you love, and everything else falls into place. And like-minded people energetically will attract to you.
At the end of the day, I always say people's opinions about you are none of your business.